Our first speaker this morning is going to bring us a welcome. It's Dr. Jeff Hyde. He began his tenure of leading the largest extension service in the nation on September 1st after coming to Texas from Penn State, where he was interim dean and director of Penn State Extension. And we're glad you're with us, Dr. Hyde, and I will turn it over to you.
All right. Thanks, Andy. I appreciate the introduction. Appreciate the opportunity to talk with you and the group today. There's lots of things I'd like to kind of convey to you and the group about the importance of volunteers and the work that we are doing collectively to make health information, wellness information available to all Texans. And so I'm really glad to have the opportunity to be here today. As Andy said, I just spent 19 years at Penn State before coming here. I'm an agricultural economist by training, and so I don't have the background that most of you on the call have from a subject matter standpoint, but I certainly eat, and I certainly need to exercise more than I do, and so I can relate to the content that you're going to go over in your training in this session. So thank you again for allowing me to be with you. I was asked to talk a little bit, and I would love to talk a little bit about the importance of volunteers. And so, I was brought here, as Andy said, on September 1st with an explicit goal of making sure that AgriLife Extension is relevant and pertinent and working to reach every Texan. And we have about 1,800 people on the payroll. And so if you do the math and divide 29 million Texans by 1,800 people, that's a pretty heavy lift. That's about 16,111 people per paid employee that we're asked to reach. That's a pretty heavy lift. But thankfully, we have about 90,000 people who voluntarily give time, talent, and treasure to AgriLife Extension, which cuts that number to only 316 people per person. Now, I understand that's a simplistic approach, but the point of that is that we absolutely could not work to reach every Texan without engaging through our volunteer network. And so I'm very appreciative of those 90,000 people who provide their time and treasure and talent to AgriLife Extension. And again, we just couldn't do that without you. It looks like, just looking at some historical numbers, this is a program, as Andy said, this is the third training. So this is a relatively new program compared to other volunteer-heavy programs like Master Gardener Program or especially 4-H, which have both been around a while. And that's where a lot of those 90,000 volunteers are giving their time. But I'm very much appreciative and excited to see where this program's going and growing to engage volunteers and then ultimately to engage the public, because again, that's our mission, to reach every Texan. So as I looked down through in preparation and tried to better understand the Master Wellness Program, the Master Wellness Volunteer Program, there's a list on the website of example activities that our volunteers are asked to be a part of. And some of those are presentations to community groups, cooking demonstrations, distributing info at health fairs and school-based programs, and data entry, which I want to talk about separately a little bit. But all of those other things are clearly our volunteers engaging members of the public and helping them understand how to live a healthier lifestyle. And again, that goes directly to the mission that we have to bring our science-based information to bear on every Texan. And the reason I wanted to separate out data entry is we are in a society in which one of the things that keeps me awake as director is making sure that we are able to account for the public dollars that are given to us to do our job. So a big part of data entry is in documenting the activities, even though a lot of the volunteers, obviously we're not paying directly, we are spending public dollars that come to local, state, and federal governments through their tax income to reach every Texan. So we're accountable to them for that. So a lot of that data entry, while it may seem like not very sexy or not very glorious. It's really, really important to us. And so I can't underscore that behind the scenes work that some of you may be doing for volunteers. So another thing I was impressed by, even though it's a relatively new program, and I'm encouraged to see more volunteers getting trained. In 2019, we had 8,689 hours of volunteer time given to the Master Wellness Volunteer Program. So if you divide that by 2,000 hours per FTE approximately, that's about 4.3 people's worth of work being done by the volunteer network. So again, it's as though we're hiring another 4.3 people to do the work of AgriLife Extension to bring that research-based information to bear on the public. And again, we just can't, we don't have the resources to hire those 4 people. So we're very, very thankful for the folks that find a connection to the mission and want to be a part of it. And I wanted to share a little bit about my own volunteer background. I don't come from the extension world. My dad's a preacher. We moved around a lot. So I wasn't in 4-H. I wasn't in FFA. But when I got old enough and had children of my own, I have 2 children, I began to volunteer to support them. So that comes in typical sorts of things like helping to coach Little League or soccer or whatever that may be. But probably the one where I got most involved in the way that we're engaging volunteers is with the Boy Scouts. My son was a Cub Scout, and like lots of opportunities that arise, we were sitting around a room one day and I was watching them go through their lesson for the evening, and one of the leaders came up and said, "We'd love to have you on the committee to do this work." I said, "Okay, what's involved?" And I got involved in that way, and eventually became chair of that committee and den leader for my son's group. And so it was a way for me, as I reflect on what we engage volunteers to do with AgriLife Extension, I very much did that with the Boy Scouts of America, and working with that group to reach their mission of helping to raise up a generation of, in their case, young men who are good citizens, basically. Certainly they have life skills and other things, but that's not at all dissimilar from what we do through our 4-H program and other youth development activities that we have. And so I got a lot of pride in wearing the uniform of the Boy Scouts and to represent them, despite the fact that they never paid me a dime to do that. So I can relate to our volunteers in connecting back to something they believe in and something they're willing to contribute their own time to. And I appreciate that very, very much. And as I think about how the public engage with us, and the average person, when you're out there and you're wearing the AgriLife Extension brand, as I saw Andy has his branded shirt on today, whether you're at making a presentation, you're at a cooking demonstration, or one of those other things that volunteers are asked to do as part of the program, the average person coming up to them doesn't care whether they're paid or unpaid. They don't care the background. They don't care about where you're from. At the end of the day, what they want is solutions to the problem that brought them to the engagement that they're having with you. And so I appreciate very, very much the fact that whether we have those 1,800 paid folks or the 90,000 volunteers, they're all representing AgriLife Extension and the power of that network. And so I am a firm believer in connecting and leveraging our assets, those 1,800 people, through those volunteers, because again, we could not do what we're asked to do without you folks who are either volunteering your time or engaging in training such as this to make sure that volunteers are equipped to do the work that we're asking them to do and that they're lining up to do. So I'm very, very happy to be a part of this, to see where this program grows, excited to see the growth that has happened and the growth that will happen in this. Thank you again for the opportunity, and thank you all for either giving of your time as a volunteer or taking the time needed to provide the training for those folks. So thank you, Andy, for the opportunity. And I think I was just a few minutes short so that Laura can go a little bit longer with hers. But thank you so much for the opportunity, and best of luck with the training.
We appreciate your time today, Dr. Hyde, and appreciate your sentiments about reporting. That's one of those things that the volunteers are going to hear a lot about.